biggest point coming into the game and after the game was Sam Prendergast starting, and everyone was like, yes, like, I mean, even as me, like, I'm a Munster fan, but I'm like excited. I wanted to see him play because I'm an Irish fan as well. The kid then goes away and then he gets man of the match in his first game. I mean, come on. Like.
Joe presents House of Rugby, together with Bank of Ireland, proud supporter of the 4 Irish provinces.
Hello and welcome back to House of Rugby, together with Bank of Ireland. As you can see, no Greg O'Shea this week. He is off on his hollybobs, but I do have Lindsay, Peat and Pat McCarry.
How are you?
Good. How was your weekend?
Good weekend. Lots of rugby, lots of sport. Tried to get it all in. And the sun shone. So, yeah, good weekend.
How about yourself, Pat?
Coming down from our big stage appearances now, yeah. We had a good run out in Salons with the Dramatic Society, but I'm still surprised no agent has called me yet, or I haven't been picked up, or I've not gone off to join Mescal over in...
Well, but I did hear, Patrick, you were looking for physio for your wrists with all the autographs you were signing, so... I mean, that says something.
I was pre-signing photographs myself just to kind of save time and stuff like that. Yeah,
I think that was good. You're so thoughtful, aren't you?
Yeah. Just
well, look, lads,
stacking them at home there.
We've an absolute cracker of a URC weekend to look back on. You obviously see why I'm smiling, and we'll get to that in a while. Obviously, unfortunately, more tough news from the Women's Six Nations. We'll also get to that, which is why Lindsay isn't smiling and why I am smiling. But you can both smile at the fact that Leinster are after snacking up Jacques Nienaber. Yes, Jacques Nienaber that was with Munster before, and as the Springboks head coach is coming in as number 2 to replace Lancaster. Not a bad replacement, as far as replacements go.
I was in the car and I heard about it because I was listening to RTE on the drive, and they just said, big break in rugby story, and sometimes you think that might be bad news, and then they're talking about Jacques Nienaber, and I was like, I couldn't believe it, and I still almost can't believe it. Now the way kind of Leo Cullen runs it is almost like he's almost like the DOR, and kind of
yes.
So Nienaber will kind of be the kind of main coach there, like Lancaster was, but he is going to be under someone. So it's a very interesting thing that he would decide to leave his home where he's from. Like, you think sometimes you get the dream job, you're coaching your country, that's where you've made it, but yet that he just wants to go back to Leinster as well. Again, the challenges there. Again, you're probably working with the best squad in World Rugby. I know the trophies don't back that up really in the last few years, but the most potential there as well. But I don't know. A part of me was going, this guy must be getting paid a good bit of money to do it as well, to come away from South Africa as well. But yeah, massive appointment. Yeah.
Yeah, and listening to him, Leo Cullen was naming the likes of Sean O'Brien obviously has come back as contact skills coach. Ronan McBride's there obviously, who was involved in Wales, who looks after the scrum. And then he's kind of like, Jack Hayes will look after his, the defence is his forte, so he'll kind of be just looking after the defence. So, you know what I mean? Just a little nonchalant there. So it was kind of like, wow, you're just stacking it off. And yeah, obviously as a Leinster supporter, you're kind of thinking, when Stuart Lancaster was announced that he was going to Racing, I was like, F you, Racing, thanks for taking, someone who's really was undervalued in England, and really we reap the rewards of him. So not a bad replacement, but it'll be interesting to see. Like you said, he's used to work with internationals, but I think it'd be a good challenge for him as well. And as Leo said, it's nice to have new voice, fresh ideas, and obviously he'll bring that angle that he was saying with the South Africans being in the European Cups now, and obviously in the URC, he'll just bring that different dynamic, and a little bit of maybe a South African flair that he'll bring in, little tricks of the trade. So watch this space.
It'll be interesting to see how it goes down across the board in terms of rugby and Irish rugby, because as you know, me and Greg were defending Leinster as much as we could last week, but we're giving all about their resources, to get someone of that calibre in a week after all these complaints about having all these international stuff, and now all of a sudden this guy's coming in. It's very hard to defend him. You see the state of women's rugby, you see the likes of Munster, Ulster and Connacht struggling at times, and then the Premiership teams looking for parity in terms of budgets, and to bring him in, it's a bit kind of it's a tough one to defend.
Yeah, and you can see it, and obviously, but I suppose success attracts big names, and that's the other bit you have to say. Now, am I saying that the Euro signs aren't behind that? No, I mean, I'm not naive and I'm not stupid. Well, hopefully not. But there has to be something there. And obviously when you're winning competitions and you're successful, revenue and sponsors, and so it's easier to attract all that. Now, we obviously question why James Lowe and Ronan Kelleher only, they're not on IRFU contracts.
Yes.
So was the budgets moved around to accommodate him?
Yeah, I'd say it's tough because you can only give out a certain amount of contracts back, can't you? And that's made the rest of it goes.
The IRFUD seem to be kind of minimising the amount of central contracts. There used to be like you'd have 17 or 18. Now I'd say there's probably 10 at a push. Like I was trying to have a look around, and I think 8 guaranteed, and there might be a couple announced now before the season's out. Like Ian Henderson was in one. I don't know whether he will be in one anymore.
Stockdale as well, wasn't he?
Stockdale was in one, yeah. Like I was just really surprised at James Lowe. Like we were raving about him all season. That he wasn't put in a central contract. And I know the players are probably happy enough, but it'd be strange to kind of say that, okay, listen, we can't give you that extra bump from having a central contract, but yet we're going to get in the Springbok head coach to kind of supplement this team that's already unbeaten or win. Like I think they've won 23 of their 24 games already this season. Like so some of the players might just be, again, you hope, like I'd say it's a good atmosphere around the squad. They're not losing games. They're all kind of there. They're winning Grand Slams. So everybody's pretty happy, but I don't know, it might be a little thing in the back of your head, like, how come we're not getting the extra bump here? Like I'm in the form of my life, like, but we're paying all this money out to kind of get a new coach in as well. Like when we're already a winning team, like so. It's kind of maybe positioning money around. The thought crossed my mind there that maybe Johnny Sexton retire and they have a little big pot of cash that they can kind of
nice few quid there. No, it's But we'll move on to the main event and why I'm smiling from ear to ear. Munster Stormers over in South Africa. I don't think anybody really gave them a chance. I certainly didn't. I don't think you did, or you did last week as well. Well, we always gave them a chance, but we weren't very confident going over for them to play the current champions. But 26-24, and that Stormers try was a late consolation try. So they won it well, Lindsay, didn't they?
They did win it well, and it was nice to see because obviously with the most recent rounds for the Heineken Cup, you know, we were used to Munster coming out when their backs are against the wall, and they didn't, and that's why we were kind of like, oh God, you know, it's not an easy place to go, it's not an easy team to play. But the likes of Peter O'Mahony, Gavin Coombs, Ben Healy, Jack Crowley, Shane Daly's goose step, you joke me, like that was unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? So it was a team who really, they enjoyed it, and it was lovely to see. And Simon, have I got that right?
Schneiman.
Yes, your man from Carlow. I thought him and Jean Klein were exceptional in the second round. Jesus Christ, they took the game like what they had a try held up. Oh no, it was awarded in the end the first like 2 minutes, and it was from a line out. And I love the way again when you kind of bring your jumper down, you kind of start that maul rolling like no one stopped me. He just was dragging his Munster teammates, and I just thought, now finally. Your red tie at your wedding paid off. It was a lucky charm.
I was wearing the red tie, but I mean, look, Snyman, he's been out for so long, but I think people forgot. Like this guy is a world class second row and like a World Cup winning Springbok. That's why we signed him, and he made an awful difference. But I think the big thing we need to look back on at Pat, it was a strange one when we saw it come in, is Joey Carberry was completely dropped from the squad before that game. I mean,
yeah, there was some interesting calls being made by Round through the season. Like you wouldn't agree with all of them necessarily. Like I'd be a big Conor Murray fan as well, and I'm probably taking Greg's place as the Conor Murray fan club here.
How
this
much
week.
did he pay you for that?
But yeah, he's like like so there's some like even there like Simon Zebo wasn't involved, and Roundtree kind of confirmed that wasn't injury related, so he's not kind of made the trip or made the squad, so he seems to be now surplus to requirements for now anyway. Maybe he has a good pre-season or something, but and then Joey Carberry now just seems to be out of the loop. Like we know Ben Healy's leaving, like but then you know Ben Healy's been kind of like trusted. Maybe he's shown something in training, like but again, no kind of injury news. Like Roundtree wasn't coming out and saying Joey's pulled up or anything like that. So just it's strange to see what's happened there. Like of course his confidence would have taken a hit from what happened with Ireland as well, but maybe he is one of those, a bit like Ross Byrne as well, like a confidence player, like and nobody's backing him at the moment, so now all of a sudden his form is completely dropped. So like I don't know what's going on with him, you know, off the pitch as well. Like, but a shame to kind of see him kind of fall off thing, because like a lot of people still say surely he still has a chance for the World Cup, but it's hard to see him kind of, I don't know, like the window of opportunity is rapidly closing for him, isn't it? Like
Well, I think when you're going down to play any South African team away in South Africa, especially the Stormers, who are like littered with like some world class players, you have to be picking on form. And I've been there in camp where sometimes even I've gotten nods and you're not in form. You know, you're kind of getting the nod and experience. And we've had this conversation throughout the show, even with Conor Murray, who's an exceptionally world class 9. So no one's taking that away from him. So what you want in competitive squads is that everyone's pushing everyone. And Graham Roundtree, what I do like about him is he doesn't really, you're not there on merit, you're there you are there on merit and you're there with your performances, and he's rewarding that. And as I said, for me, as a sitting here from a analysing it, and then as a player, you want your best players in there performing, and unfortunately, you don't want to see Joey Carberry. Wish him every. If it's a confidence thing, Jesus, you know, we want to remind you you're world class, but when it's business end of the season for Munster, who have such a good squad and have done so well, you can't really. Can't stand on ceremony, can you?
It doesn't help his case then as well, at the fact that they went over, they got to win. Jack Crowley played really well, and then Ben Healy was instrumental in that Shane Daly try with that
brilliant.
beautiful pass. So that didn't help his case either as well. And you're kind of thinking going into this Sharks game now. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Pat. I'm pretty sure we're guaranteed top 8, but there is an issue there in terms of the Challenge Cup.
Yeah.
That if Scarlets or Benetton end up winning it, then it could be reduced down to 5 or 6 places for the Champions Cup. So we're still not technically in the clear. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, I still kind of think they're maybe just 1 point away from
losing bonus points. So we'll do it or 4 tries or whatever.
Because they're ahead of like Sharks and then the Bulls as well. Like so, and then they're away against. I think it's in the Sharks their final game then as well. Like so, they just need like a losing bonus point or kind of. If they get 4 tries, if it's a similar type of game, and they should be over the line then as well. Like
excellent.
So it's they're sorted, and then it's Connacht. They're kind of nearly the same as well. Playoff rugby confirmed, but Champions Cup is still up in the air as well.
Right.
Like, so
Is this to do with the Welsh, isn't it? The Welsh.
Yeah, it's just the way that thing with the Challenge Cup.
Yeah.
Like, but look, that'll be great. No, I mean, please God, touch wood, all going well. We'll have 4 Irish teams in the Champions Cup next year, which is what we want. Not like we're doing well enough as it is. Like, you know, we just want to keep doing better and better.
100%.
Irish rugby is just.
Well, especially after we win the World Cup. I mean,
that's
we want
it. we're just a rocket going to the moon at the moment. Like, and we're just going to keep going. But we'll move on. Even though I'd love to talk about Munster all day. Like, actually, no. Do you know we have to talk about before we move on? We have to talk about that Peter O'Mahony incident.
Yeah.
Because it was a bit of a funny one. I know you wrote a piece on it, and we were in the pub when we were watching it, so I was at a wedding. Actually, before we move on, I promised I'd give the bride and groom a massive shout out. So I said I was at a wedding the weekend, so a shout out to Gary and shout out to Fiona. It was a beautiful weekend, and I hope you have a long and lovely, successful marriage. Right?
They're a gorgeous couple. We saw them on your Insta. They're beautiful.
Excellent. But anyway, back to the rugby. Yeah, the Peter O'Mahony incident. Like, we were there because one lad was like, come over here. It's going to be red cards. It's going to be yellow. And like, I only kind of half saw it, and I was like, I don't look good. I mean, nothing was given in the end at all, was it? Just wasn't even a penalty.
No, they just reversed the penalty that O'Mahony had given away for coming in through the side. Like, but and that was it. It was so funny just to watch. I'd love to watch O'Mahony at the end of it. Like, it's like he just exists in the chaos. Like, he loves winding people up and doing this. So like, the fact that he had got them to react. He just got back up and was having a drink of water and was like, and it was like no bother to him. Like, but it was initially like Joseph Dwayba was kind of having an argument with him, and O'Mahony was just trying to push him off now. But then, I think it was like Marvin Orey was the one that kind of reacted. Like Mal Herber had kind of pulled O'Mahony away from it. But then Marvin Orey just came in and just like a weird kind of thing to do. Hand on his face, pushing his face into the ground like that, like open palm. And then again, it all kicked off a minute later when they're all standing up again, and Ori came in again and wrapped his hand around his face. So just a weird, like, you know, if that wouldn't be my instinct. My instinct would probably be to run the opposite direction anyway. But your instinct to come in and like wrap your hand on someone's face. Now, I don't think there was any real proper contact with the eye. There was no gouging or anything like that. But just a strange action, like, and I think the referee was like Craig Evans, and he said like, no, that's completely unacceptable. But there was no cards given out for it as well. Like,
strange one. It's like face contact. Like, when you think about it, face contact, and you're getting towards that eye area as well. Like, that's something that should be. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it was the right decision in the end, or do you think more should have been done?
No, I think more should have been done, because again, when two teams like that go and there's so much at stake with the result and everything else like that, like, you just have to take control of the game. I think, if I'm honest, and I can say this because I've said it before, I'm the wind-up merchant and the one who'll go looking for, you know, make sure protecting players or winding people up. But I'd say because it was Peter O'Mahony and not anyone else, to be honest, that unfortunately then he doesn't get that rub of the green. And like you said, he gets up and he's a little bit tougher, and he's kind of delighted that he's wound them up. So no, not acceptable, because again, it's just inconsistency with what, you know, where the control of the game is. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I would have brandished yellow. You shouldn't be going near anyone's face.
There you go, that's it. On Peter, he had a great game, didn't he? Like, especially after he was kind of went to miss in that Sharks game in the Champions Cup, like when we needed him. Yeah. And we needed him again there, like, and when he steps up, like, he makes a hell of a difference.
Yeah, just so, just kind of like, what you call it, like nuggety and grizzled and stuff like that. And And yeah, like oftentimes, like I remember interviewing him earlier in this season. I think it was before they played the Aussies earlier on this season. But you're asking him like if you've had a good game, what are you doing? And it's like, I'm just winning ball back for my team. Like, or whether that's claiming restarts or line out ball or something like that, and getting in and clearing out and stuff like that. So it's like none of the pretty stuff at all. But yeah, he kind of revels in that kind of like, I'll free it up for Coombs to kind of take a run at somebody. And but yeah, and then just kind of disrupting the lineouts from them as well, and kind of getting up and cleanly jumping as well. Like, so yeah, like a great game from him again, because like it was just, I think we didn't have much faith in them going to do something to the Stormers, because Stormers are going so well, and then Munster just been so poor against the Sharks, and then a lot of big guys that you expected to step up didn't step up, and O'Mahony was one of them. But then yeah, he rarely has two bad games in a row, like, so he really came back, so it was just great to see, like. Yeah.
So, Munster on the up. Munster more than likely in Champions Cup, into the playoff. What more could you want?
I think we were only a week ago we were saying this could be their worst season ever. Like, but it's amazing what one big result does.
But I think we look like time and time again they've done that. They're able to just kind of pull a performance out of the bag. It's in them. It's why people. It's probably why we slate them and give out so much when it's really bad, because we know what they're capable and we know they can win these games and pull out this performance. And so it's probably why we're overly critical of them.
Well, especially this year, like I want to take a bit of flack off Peat O'Mahony, because I mean, he came back off a Grand Slam and then you're expecting him to just perform in a Munster jersey when you've so much like Alex Candelan come in the weekend, you've Diarmuid Barron, so you've these great young players coming up, and we need to now see them step up into this leadership. Like Jack Crowley has done it so quickly now at 10. Probably the position he plays now, which is so central to a team's success and what format they want to play. But for Pete, if I was the opposition, he's just a nuisance. That's the best way. And it's probably a lot of the stuff he does you don't get credit for unless you have a rugby eye or you have an understanding. Like, he's just someone, when you're on the opposite side of him, you're like, Jesus Christ, just get him off a ball. Or he's disrupting your platform, which is your line out, your set piece. And he's just always trying to push it to the limit. So I think great to see him back, but in the likes of where he's getting a bit of flack where he needs to step up, there's other players there I think have shown this season, and I can see your frustration. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's such depth to squad there, but look, I'm happy you're happy.
Good, thank you.
Did you see? I think because I know Chris Farrell is gone, and then Fekitoa is going, and then Nankivale is coming in from New Zealand as well. It looks like they've got Sean O'Brien from Exeter as well. Like, so
great,
another centre coming in. Yeah. So. All changed there as well, because you're almost worried that they could have been short in that area. Like,
they would have been. They needed one, like, because you've got Dan Goggin is gone as well.
Yes,
like. So there's another centre gone, like, so he's gone off. As far as I know, he's going playing in the Shield competition over in Australia. It's a semi-professional competition.
Yeah, wow.
So it kind of didn't work out too well for him. So best of luck anyway, Dan, over in Australia when you get there. But moving on, but staying in South Africa, and staying with Ireland. Another Irish team was in South Africa over the weekend. The absolute mutants that are Leinster somehow went over with a plane full of school children, almost. Were trailing for most of the game,
puberty.
and still came away with a 39-36 win. Like, the headline of that game and the biggest point coming into the game and after the game was Sam Prendergast starting. And everyone was like, yes, like, I mean, even as me, like, I'm a Munster fan, but I'm like excited. I wanted to see him play because I'm an Irish fan as well. The kid then goes away and I think it's man of the match in his first game. I mean, come on, like.
I watched him at under 20s and I was like, he's the most, at times, the most unorthodox looking fella. Like, you wouldn't think with his frame, he's long, he's skinny, he's languid, he's gangly, and next one he puts in these big boots and these fantastic kicks, and then he's like nonchalant to the gain line. He just fabulous pass. Like, the pass for the first try just splits the defence, and when you're forward coming onto that ball and all the work is taken on, you just have to run straight. Like, it's absolutely, he was a joy to watch. And finally, when I was watching him, and unfortunately there was lots of rugby on the weekend, so I only caught the highlights later on that evening, I was keeping it on Twitter, but I was like, holy Lord, it epitomises how good Leinster actually are, because I was like, right, it's all right, we needed to go down with the young lads, who've, as I said, literally have just come out of school, and it's just run so deep into the root, like how the game plan, how consistent they are, and yes, they had moments of really, really poor defence, but by God, an attack when they got going, inside passes, they they just never give up. Just the variation of their try. And as I said, Sam Prendergast might be this shining light that we have actually now a line of replacements for Johnny.
That's it.
Yeah.
So they were missing a full squad and went
Yeah.
over with a whole other second squad. But looking at the game itself, Pat, like some good try scored. That first try, I wasn't even mentioning it there a few weeks ago, but Abeladze, like the Georgian
Yes,
prop,
yeah,
'cause he's
yeah.
been out injured, and I was like, can we get him down at Munster? Can we, like, 'cause you're not using him?
No.
Like, and like I can see why now that they wanted to retain him, because that
Yeah.
try was incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah, like it was almost, someone who's been around for a while, and you kind of almost like let's say Dermot Barron might be the same as well. Like you take a guy for granted because you just see his name on the list or something like. And even like let's say Tom Clarkson is well spoken of at Leinster as well, but sometimes it's like injuries or he's not getting in ahead of the main guys. You're just watching the game back, and all of a sudden you just see you just assumed he was a back row, like and it was Abzaladze, and you're kind of, and then again, like I was then googling like. What's the deal with him? Has he had injuries and stuff? Because it's like such a surprising thing to see a guy with that much pace, and he still had to bash guys out of the play to get over the line.
Hell of a try.
And
Brilliant.
like 27 now. Ended up like thinking he wasn't going to play for Ireland, so now played for Georgia then as well. Like but yeah, now all of a sudden you see something like that. And it's like I suppose everybody at Leinster's probably saying it as well. If you can keep this guy fit. And now you're only coming into your like prime as a prop as well.
Oh yeah,
like.
that's young for a prop, like. But
Yeah.
I suppose at the same time as well, like you have to understand the fact that he's dealing with like every prop in front of him is either an Ireland international or they've also like your backup tight head is an Australian international. You know?
Yeah.
So what I mean, so you've got like issues there where even like
Jesus, yeah,
bro,
yeah.
who was the back? Sorry, Keane, your backup, your two loose heads and your two tight heads are both internationals.
Yeah.
They're regular internationals, whereas like Healy's on the bench for Ireland and what you call it, with Porter starts,
yeah.
Furlong starts for Ireland, and Latoa would start for Australia or at least be on the bench.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what he's up against, unfortunately. That's why I was saying, no, the Munster.
Yeah.
No, he's happy with I think he plays with Clontarf for the AL, and then he's been obviously in and out, so success all around. And like when you read the report, like Abeladze he got a flat ball and inside the 22, you're like, oh God, was it just an easy breakaway try? And then you see him like with three Lions fellas hanging off him and he turned. But yeah, he is only coming into his prime, and I think that's the only thing for him that, like, obviously Keane Healy only signed a 1-year extension on his contract, and he's been an absolutely exceptional servant, and it's lovely to have him in there to help transition these young men. But probably it's not too long now. He probably hopefully will be moving maybe into a coach role, and that's the nice thing about Leinster as well. They will bring their players back to if that's what they want to do. That's the road they want to go down.
Looking at like how the game went, like this, like to make it even more crazy and make Leinster look like even more mutants. The fact that we've already said that they went over with their second squad over to South Africa, got to win. At one stage, they were 36-21 down with two men in the bin. Who was in the bin? It was Nick McCarty and Chris Cosgrave.
Yeah.
So even to add to that, like, I mean, what are they feeding them in Leinster? Come on, what's the secret?
I don't know. If I knew that, I'd be taking it for the rest of us. I think, again, it's just consistency and clarity. And obviously, Stuart Lancaster and Leo Cullen instill such belief. And I think as well, like Sean O'Brien and following him. And, they're just excited every day, I'd say, to go to work and be in there. So it seems just a lovely environment to be in. And these young guys. And what I really was impressed with Leo's interview was, he alluded to the fact that he told the lads a couple of weeks ago that they would be getting time, obviously, going down to South Africa. So to have that clarity and be working towards something is huge as a player, to know that you're going to get that game time. So now, all of a sudden, you always have a focus and a goal. So I think how they move the lads as well in and out and get them back to their clubs, and they're always getting game time and they're always valued. And I think no matter if you're starting in a shirt or you feel valued and part of something bigger. And I know that sounds really fluffy and everything else like that, but as I said, you've been there as a player, and that's huge for you. That's huge for you to know you're valued for that. So I just think, like even looking at Prendergast's reaction and the post-match reaction, and I think it was Brian Deeney, if I'm not mistaken, on the sideline, where they're just like waiting for Santa to arrive at Christmas for the final whistle. Like, it was just lovely.
Yeah.
So I think that trip will go a long way, and I just think, I think it's simple things that they're repeating, and I think it'll be hard actually for Jacques to come in and really be able to make an impact into an environment that's very successful.
Yeah. I think in Munster though, like when they had him there, like they absolutely spoke the world of him. Said he was one of the best coaches we've had, like Bruno Manny and stuff on last year, and he was saying this guy's unbelievable. But looking at that Leinster game as well, Pat, like I think the main thing I think we have to look at is the fact that Leinster, first of all, they were afforded to do this, right, because they're top of the table, right? So that's why they're able to send the kids over. But the stunning and most incredible thing for me is the fact that they went over and won.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The fact that, okay, that they're in a position, they're top of the league, can't be caught. So that throw the kids out. Normally in that situation, you throw the kids out, you probably end up losing, especially in South Africa. But not only like did the kids, that we went over and got to play and get to start, they bloody won.
Yeah.
You know?
It's almost like they have like a shadow squad on the go this season, and Rhys Ruddock is their captain, and like they have like this whole second unit that would probably go up against each other in training as well. Like, but I thought like Leo Cullen was doing an interview before the game. I think when the Nienaber news was announced, and he had brought up like John McKee, like the hooker, and he was kind of saying that these lads are seeing now that McKee has come in, played Champions Cup, and is scoring a try in the Champions Cup.
Yes.
So they're saying there is a pathway now, like, which is a big thing for them as well. And then yeah, like just even going back to like someone like, oh Jesus, so many of them are good, like Brownlee and Cosgrave as well. Like, but someone like Sam Prendergast as well, who. Like, it is funny, like, the other provinces, I was saying, nearly, like, if you mention about him on Twitter or something, the other fans in provinces would be like, we'll have him, like, you know, like, and I don't think he's going to get a chance at Leinster. I think, you know, let him have us, like, you know, we'll take him for 2 seasons. And, like, I'm sure, I would say Leinster have heard from every province. Like, you'd be almost foolish not to give him a shout and say, we'll take him off your hands for a couple of seasons. Like, you know, like, and we'll give him we'll give him the experience and you can have him back or something. But, like, I'm sure, like, they've all, like, the likes of Connacht and Ulster definitely, maybe Munster, like, but I can see...
We'll take whatever's going, like.
Yeah.
I think Andy Friend is like, Keane, ring your brother there and tell him how good Connacht is.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, and that was the whole... I remember chatting to Keane at the end of last season, and it's always like, oh, you should see the brother as well, and this guy's come in and he's got equally the same amount of kind of potential as well. But
didn't Connacht leave like with McCarthy isn't getting his contract renewed, like, so there's a 10 gone there as well. So
yes, yeah.
And then I mean, there's a few
Adam
guys.
Byrne as well.
Adam Byrne has gone after a year, which I think is a strange one.
It's strange, or sad, isn't it? Like,
I don't think
whatever's
it's
going on
strange, I'd say, because he hasn't had a good run again. Like,
He was
injuries
injured for
has
most of
been,
the season, wasn't he? So I wonder, like, is he? I mean, he's in a situation now where he's going to be in limbo for a while, trying to get a club. Does he go back to AIL and put his head down or something like that?
Well,
Or
hopefully
go over to France and look for a D2 team or something, or I don't know.
probably could, yeah. Like, you know, like a D2 team would probably, you'd do well, you'd pick up decent enough money if you wanted to give it one last shot, like, you know.
What age is he?
He's probably 26, probably 27 as well.
Yeah,
like,
late 20s, still
Not
very...
old, like,
no.
not old. Look, that's a good segue. Anyway, moving on to Connacht. Connacht's 5-try win, or they scored 5 tries in a 38-19 win over Cardiff, which is another big win. So that's another win for the Irish teams. As we said, that's after setting them up for playoff, more than likely in Champions Cup. So I mean, Irish rugby, like, what can we say about it? Just keep winning games.
It's the thing that just keeps getting better, huh? Well, nice. Is that Andy Friend's last home game now? Just to send him off?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So I think it seemed an exceptionally dry night in the West, which
Yes,
is
yeah,
unusual. And Conor Oliver got over, Kilgannon got over. They just Mac Hansen. They just had actually some really. I saw Caelan Blade getting stuck into a maul, so they just looked like actually a team who were really enjoying their rugby and really gave Andy Friend a really good send off. We saw an exceptional offload by Bundyaki to Mac Hansen for that last try.
That was lovely.
Yeah.
Actually,
Kieran
no, sorry,
Marmite.
just putting a point there. They're not officially Champions Cup yet.
Yeah, they're the same
Even
thing
if they
as well.
finish 8, it's because it's that issue with the Welsh
Yeah.
Yeah, an absolute...
shield.
Yeah, absolute crock.
I'm sure the lads
So
will be
you
out
believe in
celebrating.
it? Is it fair?
They'll
Do
be
you think
out
it's
celebrating
fair?
their shield now again this year, will they? When they finish 13th with their shield.
I remember, like, I think it was
Can't even
last
drink
season.
out of a shield.
Like, speaking to Martin and I about it, like, you know, the head guy in the URC, and it's just like, surely that changes. And it was almost a concession that was made to the Welsh sides and the Scottish and Italian sides at the start that, like, no, there is a route into the Champions Cup, but they have to knock that on the head for next season. Like, they can't. Like, Cardiff I think they're 11th. They're the best Welsh side at the moment. They're 11th. They've won 8, lost 9. And they'd go to Champions Cup ahead of it.
It's a joke. And also you have to remember the fact that we're after bringing in 4 heavyweight South Africa teams. So the competition has never been so competitive. And 3 out of the 4 of them, the first one, Stormers won it in the first year. Sharks are performing well.
Yep.
Well, the Lions aren't doing great, like, but Bulls are playing well.
Yeah.
So there are 4 very strong sides. So it's harder to win games. So even if you do the hard work and you win, some lowly old Welsh side who can't bloody win a game to save their lives is below you, gets your Champions Cup spot.
Yep.
I mean, that's nuts.
And what's your incentive if you're a Welsh side as well? It's just like, we'll just be the top of the bottom. You know, like,
And you're still in, like...
Yeah, like, I think even Lions are ahead of Cardiff at the moment. So Yeah, there is a thing of like, I don't know what they're going to do in Welsh rugby. Like, they're still in a big mess that like they've never really been able to get over. Like, and it was almost like Gatlin's Wales used to cover the cracks over what was going on there, and like they're still like they've had to cut their squads for next season. Like, they can't have the same amount of playing
There's no
spots.
budget. I mean, they're down to something like 5 million a team or even less. Is
Yeah.
what they're stuck to, which. I know it sounds like a lot of money to treat me you. And, well, I wouldn't
Well,
mind
yeah.
5 million, but trying to run an entire club with 5 million,
Yeah.
top to bottom, that's not a lot of money.
No, it's not a lot of money, and I don't think it's doing the Welsh Union any favours by kind of getting them out of jail in a way. But the other point is, they're in such dire straits now. It's going to take a long time for them to rectify, and we'll obviously. They're not the only union who, if you don't invest, over time, it'll just as in rugby, as the phases go on and your players aren't working, you run out of players and get turned over, and that's what's happened Wales. So I don't think when you look at going into a Champions Cup and the calibre of teams that are there, you're just actually condoning Wales to just more misery really by putting their teams in when they're not up to the standard. So I think it's a poor decision and one that needs to be looked at, because it just won't do any favours for the group stages of the European Cup.
It's like getting like a token invite to a party. Like, you're not really invited, like, and you're just kind of there and kind of taking the free cheese and crackers or whatever, and you just kind of like, you feel awkward being there, and like they're getting belted in at most seasons as well. Like, so I don't know. I think there has been talk. Remember the weird thing about Ealing Trailfinders teaming up with like,
Oh,
like
yeah.
All that kind
they're
of
gonna
stuff.
have to do something radical almost. Or just definitely, well, not definitely, but like, it does sound harsh, like, to any of their fans. Like, but reduce it to 3 teams maybe and go from there and pool your strength a little bit. Like, but yeah, like, you'd hate. Hopefully Connacht do enough that they don't finish in that 8th spot and then
take
lose
it out of their
like,
hands and hopefully get it. But sticking on Connacht off the field, there's a lot going on. We said there, Adam Byrne is leaving, Shane Delahunt retiring, Alex Wooten retiring, Fivita's leaving, Conor Fitzgerald's leaving, Sean Masson's leaving, Kieran Booth's leaving, obviously your head coach is leaving. But there's some news just before we come on here is Scott Fardy, who we were only talking about last week, who people will know as he played with Leinster, played with Australia, like a test veteran, like one of the best second row forward / back rows like in the world at one stage in his career. Like, so there's a guy who's going to bring a lot of experience, Scott.
Hugely, and like when you big names, and Muldoon is coming back as well. So I mean, that's an exceptional amount of experience and really good guys who's going to bring a lot of personality to your dressing room. Scott Fardy was once upon a time the Rhys Ruddock who was there, like bringing everyone along, was so consistent in Leinster jersey, has won European titles with them. So as a player, and I suppose as anyone he would have picked up along his very experienced journey, will bring nothing but positives to the Connacht dressing room and their on-field stuff, and build on what has been, other than inconsistency, some really, really glimpses of fantastic rugby and foundations to really build on going forward.
Yeah, a couple of signings as well, Pat. Andrew Smith and Liam McNamara in from the Sevens. It would have been interesting to have Greg on this week, because the latter is an Australian guy, like some of the Irish guys being overlooked. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's kind of it's interesting. It's almost like they're trying to, like, it's worked with John Porch and it's worked with Mac Hansen.
Yeah.
So then again, it's the same thing again with McNamara is Irish qualified as well. So there must be some parentage there from as well. Like, but yeah, a lot of great, like Irish, like Jordan Conroy, I suppose, being one of them. Like, and there's a few lads who kind of are exceptional as well, like that. You kind of often wonder, like, well, why don't they give him, a pre-season and see how it goes or something?
The world Sevens player of the year isn't playing rugby at the moment, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, so why hasn't he been looked at?
Isn't he? Terry Kennedy is like talked that, like he might go to Australia or something like that as well. Like, why would you not bring him in and give him a look or something like that? Like,
it's bizarre. It's a strange one.
Well, it's bizarre when you see like Hugo Keenan is now like an invaluable
best
asset
fullback in the world now. Like,
exactly. And like Terry Kennedy obviously would have had a huge amount. He's Mary's man, if I'm not mistaken, has huge experience with 15s as well as 7s, and like what he's done in the last 12 months alone, and now not to be playing rugby at all is kind of a strange call. So yeah, I don't see where that goes, but it'll be interesting maybe to put that to Greg next week. And as we'll
have to find out and see what he thinks about that one. But no, look, good, another win for Connacht. I said hopefully that won't catch him out, this whole bloody Welsh Shield thing. Like, and you can celebrate your shield when Connacht can celebrate their Champions Cup qualification, please God. Moving on to another Irish win. 4 from 4, clean sweep.
And a little history, new record set, I believe, by Mr. Stewart.
Yes, Tom Stewart. The final score was 14-19 Ulster against the Dragons. He's now got 17 tries for the season, 10 in his last 5 games. Oh my, he's played 17, he's only started 12. That is absolutely
Isn't it
insane.
crazy? Yeah.
Another hat-trick, like 2 of them were classic Ulster Maul hooker tries.
Yeah.
The third try was a lovely try, wasn't it?
Yeah, true to Stockdale, was it?
Yeah, Stockdale, yeah,
with
and
an offload.
he was herring down the left wing, and Stockdale just kind of unselfishly gave it to him, and yeah, incredible. Like I think they're the URC Pro 14 Magner's record was 14 tries before, like, so to have a hooker beating it with like one regular.
Tim Visser, a winger, is
Yeah,
the
Tim Visser,
previous
he's a
one.
class player, like.
And here's a hooker.
To have him like kind of beat it with a regular season game to go, and then probably the playoffs to go, like, so he could reach 20, and I think that the overall record for an Irish player in a season is 20 that Stockdale and Tommy Bowe got in different
Once again,
seasons, like
2 wingers, can we
two
point
wingers,
out
yeah,
again?
yeah.
And 2 Ulstermen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like the rolling maul is like, it's for a while this season it almost got figured out on Ulster, and now they've seemed to got it going again. Like, so they must have made little tweaks as well. But it's that, I suppose, and it's the quick tap 5-meter penalties that are leading to all this. But yeah, are hookers becoming sexy now? Like, are they? Is that the new position?
How many has Dan Sheehan got? He's got a good few this year as well, hasn't he?
Oh, he probably has over double figures, I'd say, for Dan Sheehan.
And he's not even getting all the games.
No,
he's
he's
in and out.
not even playing regularly. Like,
No, Tom Stewart isn't even making it to camp. He only made it in the last camp because we ran out of hookers, sexy hookers, albeit.
sexy hookers. Yeah.
good to see though. I mean, like the depth we have there. Like we've got 4 or 5 hookers at our disposal, and 2 of them are 2 of the best in the world. And then this guy, like, I mean, it's crazy to think that you can be breaking records, score 17 tries in the Pro 14, and barely be near the Irish team, because that's how good Sheehan and Herring are. So that's sick. That just shows you like the depth that's there and the quality of players, isn't it?
Yeah. And then again, you talk about this guy McKee, Barron scoring 2 at the weekend as well. Like, all of a sudden, you're inundated, like, and that's it. Maybe again that these lads are kind of. It's a funny thing sometimes, like in soccer as well. If somebody's scoring penalties, their record looks better. Like when Bruno Fernandes was on the penalties for United, his record's looking great and he's getting a load of praise. Now these hookers are getting tries as well, and they're getting more attention for themselves. And where they might not have, they just would have done the dirty work in the past and stuff. But now they're finishing off scores as well. Like, so. Some people would say that it's the number 8s, the poor number 8s. Think about them, and they're normally the guys that kind of finish stuff off at the back of things. So, like,
would you consider, like, do you know about like the way it works now? Like generally, like in a maul, it always goes back to the hooker. Like, would you like technically look at that? Is that like scoring a penalty try, as in a penalty in soccer? Like, because all you do is hand it back and it just fall onto the ground when you get there.
Yeah, the boys crash
do you know
over.
What I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's not as hard as like Gary Ringrose going off sidestepping 3 fellas and running down, and it's still only 1 try.
Oh no, 100%. And I've been at the back where I've robbed tries off the hookers. Like, I'm like, give me the ball.
Yeah.
I absolutely. Come here, and I tell you,
It's
Lou
the dark
says we're
arts now,
cheeky.
front nose, huh?
Yeah,
The
because
dark
I'm like,
arts.
F you, sexy hookers. I want to try. I will give a shout out to Clean Rowling, because on my last game for Ireland, we played the USA, and she thankfully gave me the ball at the back of the mall, and she could have taken it. She was very
See,
kind.
that's nice,
That's
no.
a love, Clee. Thank you again.
A lot of players wouldn't do that. Like.
No, they do not. They do not let go of the ball, and you're kind of ripping it, and you're like, right, and then you kind of go and block it again, and like you can see Tom Stewart, he's looking up and he's like, no one's getting that ball off him. But it's strange actually to hear you say that, because anytime we've played like railway, we'd put our hookers out in the channels as a mismatch. We would have done it with Ireland, and actually. They said Clean Maloney would have got 2 tries one of the days against Scotland, where she's just in the loose. Do you know? So your hooker can actually be one, isn't he, like your back row?
Yeah,
so it's not like obviously we've seen Dan Sheehan absolutely tear down like a winger. You know, in games. So it's nice to have that mobile loose. And you would normally put them out in the 15 channels. So once their job is done, out they go. And we saw that from Tom Stewart there when he got his 3rd try.
Yeah, unbelievable.
It's worked out well for us this season, hasn't it, Pat? Like, I know they had a bit of a rough patch there for a while, but if they beat Edinburgh on Friday, they're guaranteed second place, guaranteed a home quarter-final and semi-final.
Yeah.
So that puts them right in the hunt, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like, that's it. And they would back themselves then, at Kingspan Stadium to go.
Tough place to go.
And then again, like, it's their big problem is almost, I'm trying to think, like, it's like Liverpool under Klopp as well. I keep going back to football here as well. Apologies
Liverpool right now.
Apologies to the Union heads, like, but yeah, it's the same thing. It's like, if it wasn't for Manchester City, like, to be more success. If it wasn't for Leinster, Ulster would be kind of raved about, and kind of like, they're still without a trophy now since 2006 as well. Like, but so many close calls, and it's nearly always Leinster that's kind of doing them in at the end as well. Like, so. Like again, like, they had a big dip during the season, and there was even people were getting frustrated with Dan McFarlane. Remember, he was leaving all his major players on the bench, and they were coming off his impact subs, and he was doing anything to try and get them going again. But it's amazing what a couple of wins can do for the confidence. Like, so they should beat Edinburgh at the weekend, and that means they're guaranteed second as well. Like, so. yeah, fair play to them, especially kind of after kind of, the Champions Cup didn't really work out for them. They kind of, although that was the same thing again. They gave Leinster a really good go. They played their hearts out and they still got beaten 30 points.
Do you remember as well, like in the pool stage, they lost against the reigning champions and they got knocked out by the other finalists.
Yes,
like, so
yeah.
They
didn't
have the easiest
run,
routes to try and do that well. Like, but as I said, like the way they've been playing the Kingspan, that place is a bloody fortress.
Yeah.
And it's full
And
for
it's
every
rocking.
match, no matter what, no matter who they're playing. They can be playing against each other and they'll still fill the stadium.
Yeah.
It's the way it works. So they're building a nice ethos there back in Ulster. But hopefully it'll all work out. And we're back next week and we're talking about like everyone through where Champions Cup was.
Cup as well, yeah.
Have loads of Irish rugby to talk about. But moving on to the dark side of Irish rugby at the moment, while the men and everything is doing fantastic, before we get to the game itself, before we get to the actual game, during the week there was I'm sure everyone has heard about this at this time. If you haven't, you've been living under a rock for the last week. Big piece with Fiona Thomas in the Telegraph. There was a kind of an investigation into women's rugby. Apparently it went on for quite a while that they were in there before this came out. The standout line, I won't say the word, but it's "who gives an F" about women's rugby was said during a speech during the RFU president. Apparently a well-known and well-up figure was overheard saying that while he was talking. There's a lot of other kind of big nuggets to come out of it in terms of the fact that with these contracts coming in, it was either full-time or nothing. Like the ladies were looking for a hybrid contract, which is completely understandable because a lot of them have, as we've mentioned loads of times, good jobs, big jobs,
Really
where
good
they'd
job,
like
yeah.
to keep playing rugby and have their job. So let's do a hybrid situation. But it was like, all duck or no dinner was basically what they were offered, which is very unfair. Players being refused protein on their tour to Japan, like rugby players playing for an international team being refused protein. I mean, is there anyone that doesn't play rugby or sports? Like, I mean, you need, like, your supplements are so bloody important. And even something like they made a big song and dance and made us all feel sorry for them. Oh, you're being such brilliant to women's rugby, bringing in the navy shorts. They didn't even consult the women on this.
No.
So do you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. I mean, then obviously Greg Williams then came out and spoke and he said it was very historic and then a bit of a slip of the tongue there because he said he was like a father and the girls were his daughters. I don't know what way you want to look at that, but go for it. Let's start with that before we even look at the match over the weekend.
Look, I don't know Greg personally. I've met him a couple of times.
Yeah.
He seems a good guy. He would have, been a teacher and coached at Michael's, and he has a vast experience on his CV as regards rugby. But when we're trying to change the professional ethos of the game, when we're trying to change the values and the social norms around women's rugby, we really don't need comments like that. I have no doubt it came from a good place. But like, would you hear Richie Murphy saying that to the under-20s? Would I hear my own coach at Railway saying it, or Ben Martin at Blackrock? And I hope these players or people don't mind me using them as an example. As I said, I'm sure it was a slip of the tongue and he was trying to just say it from a protection point.
Yeah, of course.
However, as I said, when you're really trying to change the professionalism and the attitudes towards women's rugby, and like that'll nicely bring me into the point about who gives an F about women's rugby. It's not nice that someone in such a strong position who has such influence on the game is saying that, and I don't know who said it or whatever else. And again, this is a report, so you have to take it at face value about it. But it's not the first time it's been said, and it won't be the last. And unfortunately, I come back to, as a huge advocate of the game we love, we don't know the joys we have in our own personal lives until we try them, whether that's food or sport or whatever else. And I'd always say, don't have an opinion on women's rugby until you go and see it, because there was some exceptional games over the weekend. I watched France and Scotland yesterday. England and Wales was an absolute cracker, and some of the skill level, including kicking, which isn't obviously always the forte of the women's game. France were sublime yesterday. Some of the standard of rugby. So it's extremely disappointing. It's extremely upsetting. It's I'm sitting here and we've had a great chat about rugby, and then you just have this anxious pit, and I just feel so sorry for the girls. And we've said it on this show before, no one is pointing a finger at them, because unfortunately, when you take your eye off the ball for such a long period of time, which realistically in my view was 10 years, they were always destined to fail. They were always destined to fail. So, and now they're they're fulfilling that destiny under the scrutiny of now, so with all eyes on the women's game, because it has the trajectory. It's one of the fastest growing sports from women's sports throughout the world.
It's breaking records. Like, look at the world, the most recent World Cup. Like, I look at the records being broken with England and stuff, and Twickenham and Six Nations. It's flying it.
So that weekend, right now, the last count was over 45,000 tickets sold in Twickenham as a standalone event for France and England. On that Monday now, Arsenal will play. I saw a stat yesterday, in 10 years, it was about maybe just under 1,300, if memory serves me right, sold for Wolfsburg for the semi-final of Champions League. Now the Emirates as a standalone, and that Monday following that same fixture with the rugby is now sold out in the Emirates for Arsenal against Wolfsburg in the semi-final of the Champions League. So it's very hard to see all these fantastic records being broken, and we're so far behind, aren't we?
So behind. Pat, like, looking mainly on that who gives an F about women's rugby. You've been covering the women's game for a long time, as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
And you were one of those people that was covering the game when there's a time when it was really struggling for coverage.
Yeah.
You've always when you hear someone say something like that, does that piss you off? Big time.
Yeah, like I was saying, like for me, I think it was like 2012 when I started kind of covering the women's team, and you used to go to Ashburn Rugby Club, and they'd bring the buses out of all the kids from all over the country. We'd go to see them, and it was funny. I used to kind of do reports for the national papers, but I would do them for like each of the national papers, 3 or 4 different match reports. So it was I'd be the one person that would be sent out to do it, and then you just and then they had their big success out there, and they had like winning the Grand Slam in 2013, and then getting to a kind of World Cup semi-final then as well, and beating the New Zealand team, and the momentum was there, and they just absolutely wasted it. And it was like the big thing about the Women's World Cup in 2017, 2018 was just like, the only reason they were doing it was to tick the box to get the 2023 World Cup, which they didn't then get as well. And it was like, look, we can stage an event, but that care wasn't there. Look at the warm-up games for that World Cup. Like they're playing, I don't know, like Spain and Japan. They weren't preparing for a proper World Cup. We're going to go out and try and win this thing. And then you could see it fell apart again. And then you had the whole thing with for me, I just personally feel like they care more about sevens rugby because they think that'll get more women involved or young girls in the game. So the 15s game is something that's just kind of lip service almost, and it's okay, let's kind of take it seriously. Let's say we're doing the right things, but then it's just kind of, it pales in comparison when you see the likes of Irish provinces are bringing in, Fardy, Muldoon, Jacques Nienaber, Sean O'Brien. There's so much money being spent, and then it's just kind of okay, well, it's almost like this kind of big field of dreams thing, isn't it? And you see England, they're doing it as well. It's like if you create the hype about it as well, the people will get on board, and that momentum will build for that England-France game in Twickenham, where people will want to go to that because they're hearing that it's going on. So it's just that thing of building up that kind of bit of momentum behind it. So it's almost, I guess, they've wasted a lot of stuff. And as somebody I saw mentioning there over the weekend, I think it was Ali Donnelly who's done a lot of work on it as well. It's like they just seem to clear the decks every 2 years and bring in new young players. Then they go out and get absolutely smoked against somebody, and then you don't see them again. And it's and here's another young 19-year-old or 20-year-old coming in, and where's the consistency? Where's the planning of it? So it's a big shame. And that it does permeate from some of it. Again, you said you come across so many good people who are in the game and wanted to do well, but some of those, what you'd call the Blazers, just don't give a F about it. And that permeates then as well. It's just and they're, especially when they're losing, it's I don't want to be involved with that team because they're losing all the time. So I'll just focus on the guys that are winning over here, and I'll get in the photos with the guys that are winning. So it's, I don't know, it's it looks like, as Greg McWilliams said last week, they're starting to do things. They are making a bit of changes. Yeah. Jenny Murphy was on Virgin Media over the weekend. She was saying she'd love to see that hybrid contract thing there. At least kind of phase out some of your more experienced players.
Yes.
Say, listen, we'll give you 2 years. We'll give you a hybrid contract. And you can then, like the likes of Rhys Ruddock is doing there, you train up this young, back row or this young.
It's not a crazy request. It's quite a simple. That's what I can't understand. It's not they're not asking for anything ridiculous. They were offering kind of saying, okay, just give us a hybrid one. What's the big deal?
So this is the thing. I was there in 2019 when we had our first loss to the Azuri, which was 29-27, and I was probably publicly very critical that we didn't again. Had no insight into players the likes of Paula Fitz and Heather O'Brien, Mary-Louise Riley, Ailey Sheegan, who had all been such great servants and successfully so, and helped transition. We had lost them. So in 2019, you had players stepping up from AIL right up to international test games, and they weren't ready. And it was I was only chatting to Nicky Coffey last night about even when we played England in Twickenham and they were 6 months into their contract. We came away. You should have seen our injury list. It was ridiculous because again it was now like men against boys for the cliche. You're like they were so far ahead in just their S&C. So just back to the money thing. The gas thing and the Blazers and this is just to give some people insight. Governance is a huge part, and you know this with your own involvement at club level. Governance is a huge part and feeder into the decision making part. So again, this is not about the players; it's the decisions up here that impact down here.
Yeah.
And again, 10 years, it's not about money. No one needs a Brown Thomas gift card to just sugarcoat the cracks. It's not about that. The hybrid contracts. Now, look, I'm not a business. I don't know as it regards a business model, but obviously Katie O'Dwyer spoke and there's others maybe there, and I don't know, that was the first time I heard who got offered what, but a hybrid contract to me, like she's one big experienced player who's been missing, to name but a few, and like what she would have brought culturally and then onto a pitch experience.
Massive.
Yes, exactly. And now we're looking, 2004 was the last time we were handed the wooden spoon, and without sounding negative, that's the way it's looking like now. And it's going to take such a huge turnaround. It's going to take 4 years until we see the changes. That's the unfortunate. But there is positive things happening. But again, for Greg and his players, the harsh learnings take time. It's harsh lessons. You recover from that. You set goals. You improve. But now you're looking at, if we are in tier 3, what benefit is that going to be to the learners of this squad? So, look, it's God, all you can say, it's a bit of a shit show, really.
There's one thing, like we've been doing it like with Rugby Joe, like a season with series, and you'd speak to some of the women with the Bristol ladies team, and they're in with the men. Like
Sarah Byrne.
Every week, and like they'd say the likes of like Alice Genge is doing scrumming, like scrumming sessions with them, and Pat Lamb's coming over and checking in on them, and Pat Lamb's getting in touch with them, kind of saying like, is she playing this week, or like Pat Lamb knows what's going on, and it's like, I don't know, if the provinces could start getting the players in a bit more and getting like soaking up like what's going on with Leinster, like if you could get the women in twice a week or even once a week to kind of cross paths with these guys, like anything.
I mean, same way like the way the senior men work with the 20s and stuff, and they were heavily involved together, like, and they bounced off each other, and I can guarantee you that helped that 20s team win that Grand Slam, because like we spoke to Ruan Quinn and we spoke to Gleeson as well, like, and they were telling us, I mean, he said to show up and have like Josh Van der Fleer give Quinn a lot of advice. He's like, it's the world player of the bloody year, like putting his arm around the shoulder and giving me a bit of advice.
100%.
And that like goes a long way. Like, but I mean, looking at the result itself, a 24-7 defeat. I think we said we saw it coming, as you said. It looks like it's a wooden spoon, but we're not for 1 second we putting the blame on the ladies. You know what I mean? Maybe they left themselves ruined. If they had a few chances, they could have scored a few tries. The only try that they did get, was a penalty try, but it was some good scrum pressure to get it.
Well, yeah, the one set piece, I took the pictures of the stats there at the game, right. And I think Ireland had over 60% possession. Really, really shining light was their scrum. It was exceptional. I think the likes of Sam Monaghan had 5 offloads. She had 18 carries. Same with Dervla Nickavard. So Linda Junjang had some good carries. So they made Italy, I think at one stage, the Italians had 127 tackles compared to Ireland's 60 odd. So they really put the Italians under pressure. Do you know what I mean? But they just didn't come away. Like when you're in the opposition 22, as we all know, you have to come away with points in the board. And there was probably a pivotal period just before half time. It started off with a line out. Both teams, my God, Venusi, I think, if I'm pronouncing it right, was the hooker. Now, she did not complete one line-out throw, except when she threw to the prop at the front. So it didn't actually, there was no lift. And the fact that I was living on my nerves. I was like, Jesus Christ, watching this. Poor Niamh Jones was inconsistent, but another exceptional game. She hasn't missed a tackle all tournament. She's been standout. I think she's leading tackles throughout the championship. So another exceptional performance for herself. But basically, anyway, we set up the maul, we got going, we held possession. It was the first time through all 3 games where Ireland were putting phases together, and I thought to myself, right, we're going to get here now. We're slowly getting into the territory, creeping towards the Italian try line, and then an unfortunate knock on at the wrong time, and they were putting the Italians under so much pressure, who were so indisciplined throughout the whole game. They could have taken 3 points and continued to go for another scrum and kept it in, And they're the pivotal moments, and I know everyone's like, shut up about 2021 and Parma, but that happened to us with Spain. We went for the corner, we could have taken the 3 points. And when you're under pressure in rugby, as you know, lads, unfortunately, then it's a game of margins and errors, and your basics are under pressure. And the Italians came out and they scored an exceptional try in the 7th half. So we went in with our least, 7-0, but it was 14-0 quickly after time. And I think Scolari is I thought Beatrice Rigoni was exceptional at
They're probably struggling with confidence as well, like which is that little bit of confidence thing kind of like makes you make those errors and those extra, like losing out in those tries and not scoring those tries. It's the confidence thing, but
hugely.
I think the big thing we kind of have to worry about is the fact that next up it's England.
Yeah.
And like this is an England team that are coming to town. They're like, it's like Leinster or someone coming to town. Like this, these girls are like, I know they lost the World Cup final, but they went on that. They broke the record of the most test wins. They just put 59 points past Wales. They beat them 59-3. And we're in the state we're in at the moment. Like, and I know the saving grace is the fact that it's on the Musgrave Park. We have a home crowd behind us, but it could end up being a very, very, very bad weekend for us.
Well, you're looking at kind of people who were missing even for England. Like Claudia MacDonald missed out this weekend. She had 2 tries against Italy the week before. Abby Dow's been exceptional. Holly Aitchison is in. Sarah Byrne, I don't know if you caught her offload. Like she's back playing the way she has been playing pre-World Cup. And it's funny that you mentioned Bristol. John Cronin, our director of rugby, would have went over just to get some insight in, and he said that he was blown away by Pat Lam. But without deviating off topic, I just think I'm worried because these England results have actually been on again a team who are very much blooding new players. Maud Moore came back in after injury. She's one of the props and she got a try, so you're kind of like, oh right, people are coming back in eventually. You think they're not going to be sharp. And so look, Musgrave Park is a great place to be, but it's also an all-weather pitch in a team that's exceptionally skillful. England love to kick. They're one of the highest, I think, kicking teams. So as regards putting Ireland under pressure with kicking game and really wearing them down, I'm nervous now coming into the weekend.
I think, like Stephen Jones, I think, was doing a report on it for like the Times at the weekend, and he was so positive about Wales and how brave they were and how many players stood up, and he was like, it's even hard to be critical. Like, after getting pumped 59-3, but he's like, Wales played so well. That's how good England team are. Like,
that's frightening.
Yeah, like that's kind of. It could be like it depends on like if the girls can keep kind of fighting to the end or something like that, because they're going to need to, and they're going to need a whole bench to come on and do their job as well, and they might need a little bit of luck. They might need a hard decision or something to go their way as well, and they'll still probably lose. So that's what they're. It's just France and England. They've got a head start of around 8 years. And then with all the kind of other benefits they have, like population size and more clubs and stuff like that,
and money.
And money
does help, Money goes a long way.
But like, I don't know, any kind of, if Yuri Geller, like when he used to kind of send us positive vibes, and when he's taking a break from bending spoons, like any kind of positive vibes you can give them, or that home crowd are going to have to do some kind of heavy lifting as well. So just all the best to them.
I think no matter what happens with this Six Nations, the way it's gone, and with this most recent investigation, for now, let's let them play, let them see how they get on, wait till the Six Nations over, but another report has to be done, another review has to be done, and more investigation has to be done to go, what the hell is going on and why aren't we doing it? Simple as that.
And look, the girls, big shout out to them. Best luck the weekend. It always was, and that's what we want to see, is the incremental improvements. And we did see that against Italy, and I think the confidence is the roadblock to them putting points on. But just take your points, go hell for leather, and we always come up trumps against the English. We just want a performance.
We're not letting the players accountable, we're letting the RFU accountable, and the suits and the prawn sandwich brigade, as we call them. But just before we finish up, we're going to give our never stop competing moment of the week to Leinster. We're going to have to give it to Leinster because, as you mentioned there, 36-21 down to 13 men. They went over with a lot of kids. Like your starting 10 is a 20-something-year-old kid, and he gets player of the match. So like everything was just brilliant. Like, so you can't not give it to them, even though I didn't want to give it to them.
Yeah, but look how good you look in blue.
Didn't realise that. Red next week, lads.
Oh yeah, Leinster blue everywhere. Look.
That's it for today from myself, Lindsay, and Pat. Cheers for listening and watching, and a big thanks, of course, to our sponsors, Bank of Ireland, and we will catch you next week.
Joe presents House of Rugby, together with Bank of Ireland, proud supporter of the 4 Irish provinces.